Time keeps on slipping into the future, doesn't it? If I could just save time in a bottle. That's about the only time songs I know. You know what? Over vacation, I was reading current church trends, what the current experts say about church and church life today and how things have changed in church life. And one of the things they said was this. They said, listen, if you're a pastor of a church, don't ever anymore, this is kind of taboo to do, don't ever have people stand up and greet each other in church because it's awkward. People don't like that. It's embarrassing. It's awkward. So with that said, at every location, would y'all all stand up? Let's find about 5 people we didn't come to church with and tell them how good it is to be here. Can we do that? South Knoxville, Greensboro, everybody, come on. Hey, buddy, how are you? You guys can be seated after that. Love everybody. Let me talk to South Knoxville real quick. South Knoxville, man, I've been thinking about you guys and praying all week long. We got so many good things that are coming our way. I still am kind of blown away what happened 2 weeks ago at church. That just has fired me up. So pumped up for our Family Fest on the 24th. Javon and I will be there. We're excited about that. Greensboro, a week from tomorrow, August 19th. You just heard, Javon and I will be with you guys. We are really excited about that, just to come hang out on that Monday night. So please do that. I'm excited. I'm going to bring all kinds of steaks and lobster. I'm going to make you guys dinner myself. No, I'm not going to do that. We're probably going to get Stamey's barbecue. I love that. And then remember, on the 24th as well, we're sending a whole team of people from our Sevierville campus your way in Greensboro to have that Family Fest as well, just to serve the community. So it's going to be great. Here on the 18th, if you guys get a chance to hang out with us as a church family at the Sevierville City Park, Javon and I are ultra excited about that. So lots of good things that are happening. No time like the present. Talked to you last week, and I want to get into the message this week and really just complete the sentence. No series, just from my heart. Last week we talked about death. I know it wasn't that inspiring, but it was sure challenging. And the greatest thing that happened last week, which blew my mind, to see that 84 people acknowledged salvation. They gave their heart and life to Jesus Christ last week in the church. I believe the reason is this, that we simply talked about, you know what, we're getting old. You never know what a day holds. You don't know what's going to happen in your life. And I ask you this question, and I want to throw this question back up. If you knew for sure you had limited time, I have a feeling our life would be different. If we knew for sure. Wednesday night, somebody walked out of church and said once again, hey, Brent, I know that the doctors have given me 3 to 6 months to live. I know how much time I have. This last week, which I talked about this last week, so Sunday, I walked off the platform, I went home. Sunday evening, I got a call from a police officer. After I just talked about several deaths that were connected to our community last week, also talking about the anniversary of my dad's death 3 years ago. And just for me, just as I walked the beach, and some of you were in this room, I had conversations with you about some tragic deaths that have taken place the last few weeks, and just how surreal it was for me to be on vacation and watch people just totally enjoy their time on the beach. Basically, we'll call it wasted time. Just enjoy that time together, just not having to be under the clock or the obligation, but yet talking to people about tragic death, and just so difficult to deal with. And so last Sunday, I walked off of the platform. I went home. It was about 5 or 6 in the afternoon. I got a call from a police officer that was sitting in someone's home, that this lady wanted to talk to me because the police officer is at her home at this moment, informing her that her husband has just been killed in a car accident last Sunday. Sometimes it's hard, especially when somebody maybe moves away. This couple lived in Pigeon Forge. They had since moved over to the other side of White Pine. And so they had come to church on and off, but they hadn't been here very often. And so I couldn't put a face to a name until she began to talk to me about what had transpired. And so I'll remember this, and maybe you were in this service, and this is how this really comes home to me. Several months ago, I did baby dedications. We like to do baby dedications. And I had a couple that stood right here, mid-40s, and I just vividly remember, because now I know exactly who they are. They have 8 kids, from 23 years old to when we dedicated their last child to 6 months. And I remember, I don't know if you were in the service, but I picked on them. I'm like, do y'all know where kids come from? It was that guy. 47 years old. They got home from vacation. She, as the wife, would say, honey, you don't need to go to work today. It's Sunday afternoon. We just got home. You can wait till Monday to kick your work week back off. And he goes, no, we've been gone. I'm running late with stuff. I've got to get some stuff done. And he drove down on 66 here in Sevierville and was killed. Some of you probably heard about that car accident near New Hope Church right down here in Sevierville and died. What do you say to a mom of 8 children on the phone, the police officer sitting there, and I just start to think, man, you never know what a day holds, do you? There's a couple in this room, I got a note, that are friends of Jules and Mary Treadway. Their son, 42 years old, his name is Aubrey. They're going to be burying their 42-year-old son today. And so you're like, Brent, man, what happened to you on vacation? This is awful, depressing, but we'll have a little bit of levity here. Signs you're getting old. I used some of those signs last week. How many people feel like you're getting old? Raise your hand. I got picked on pretty hard. My wife in particular picked on me hard. So I started to think, well, I think she's actually in this service. Are you back there, Javon? Oh, good. So I'm going to pick on you hard this service. I'm excited. More signs you're getting old. If you missed last week, watch the message. We had a little bit of fun with this. See if you can relate. Here, ready to go. Signs we're getting old. You choose comfort over style when it comes to your clothing. That's the sign you're getting old. Sweatpants, right? We first got married, lingerie is on. Now it's sweatpants and my moving the change t-shirt, right? Here we go. Signs you're getting old. You feel tired the minute you wake up every morning. Who's with me? Signs you're getting old. When you groan every time you bend down. That's my wife. She'll look at me, what's wrong with you now? My wife, signs you're getting old. You will not leave the house without a coat. It's going to be like 100 degrees today. It's going to feel super hot. If we would go to a movie today, she's going to dress like we're going to, I don't know, Mount Everest. I mean, it's like, what? It's going to be cold in there. Okay, Grandma, here's your quilt. Anyway. Signs you're getting old. I don't think he's in this room. No, he's not in this room. The other day at men's breakfast, out of the blue, I'm not going to tell you who he is, but he's a friend of mine. You know, he just starts to say, you know what? I have to get up like 2 or 3 times a night because I have to go to the bathroom. Like just out of the blue. I don't know where the conversation came from. I'm like, I don't really want to know that. I'm with you. I got that. And somebody across the room, it was men's breakfast at lunch, just shouted. I think it was Rick Parker. He's like, depends. That's wrong. So signs you're getting old, ready? Your bladder equals your nemesis. My son will say this. He knows I'm getting old because all my sayings are this. In my day. In my day. Back in the day. Who's ever said that before to somebody? Back in the day. Ultimate sign you're getting old, I'll close with this. You know what? Car insurance is getting so cheap for me now. My son, oh Lord, we got to back up the Brinks truck to pay his car insurance. For me, I'm getting old. It's cheap, but life insurance is getting expensive. That's when you know you're getting old. If you have your Bibles, I want you to turn to Colossians chapter 4. I brought the door out for a reason. We preach with this door. It's going to be a little bit different. I'm just going to preach from my heart. I want to kind of complete the sentence from last week. I remember hearing a story one time of a grandfather who was an avid sports fan. This, to me, is another sign you're getting old, and this would be me, especially my dad. He and I love to go to sports events, whether it's basketball games, football games. And so there was a grandfather. He was 75. He just turned 75 years old. He decided to take his grandson to a college football game. And we don't really know when college football games start, but this game happened to start at 7 p.m. Some of you are like, that takes me out right away. I'm not going to go watch a college game and get home at 11, 12, 1 in the morning. Well, the game is dragging on. It's going into the fourth quarter. The game is tied. It looks inevitable to go into overtime. Grandpa is getting weary. The grandson is on the edge of his seat. He's got energy to burn. And the grandpa says to the grandson these words, "You know what? It's hard getting old." Maybe Grandpa, looking at his grandson, maybe Grandpa is now into the fourth quarter of his life now. To which the grandson is watching the game, and he's getting ready to see the game go into overtime, and he cheerfully looks at Grandpa, and he goes, "Grandpa, don't worry about it. Maybe you'll go into overtime too." Tough crowd today. I can feel that. Look at me. When it comes to life, we ain't going into overtime. Not this one and only life that we live. Here's what some sobering things. Listen to these sobering thoughts. Here's a couple of quotes. Death is more universal than life. Everybody dies, not everybody lives. Harold Kushner wrote this: "I am convinced that it's not the fear of death, of our lives ending, that haunts our sleep so much as the fear that as far as the world is concerned, we might as well never have lived in the first place." So last week, if you weren't here, let's just go back. I said this: the question is not how to avoid death. It's coming. One out of one of us are going to die. The question is, and this is for me and you in our church, and this is the challenge in my life that makes it positive: how do I avoid not having lived? So many of us just exist. Time is short. Maybe it has an immediate meaning because of that. My life, and I said this to you last week, my life and your life are happening right now. So I'm going to read Colossians 4, verses 2 through 6. I'm going to read it up front. It won't come on the screens quite yet. It'll come on the screens at the end of the message. If you have your Bibles, follow along. And I just want to unpack this verse today. No series. We'll start a series in a couple weeks called Distracted. It's going to be really, really good. It's so needed in our lives. But last week, this week, and next week, I just want to speak to you from my heart. I want you to be here. I know we're finishing vacations and people are getting ready to get back into a rhythm. So this is for us today. I'm not worried about Christmas. I'm not worried about 2020. I worry about right here, right now in the season of our lives. Listen to what the Apostle Paul says. Devote yourselves, verse 2 of chapter 4 of Colossians, devote yourselves to prayer. Be watchful and thankful. I'll stop right there, and I thought about this a lot. I put it on Facebook on my vacation. I put a post with my family's photo on there. So many times I gripe about the things that I don't have. I need to be so thankful about the things that I do have. Do you realize in Romans chapter 1, it's interesting to think about this, the first step for people who walk away from their faith, the first step for people that walk away from faith is what? They forget to be thankful. For us as a church, what are we going to do about the here and now? Last week I gave us a challenge. We're going to be praying as a church August the 12th through the 21st. You can get your phone out right now. You can text PRAY10, P-R-A-Y-10, to the number 97,000, hit send, and you'll be signed up to pray. We got to be praying for this season in our church. Devote yourselves to prayer. Be watchful and thankful. Verse 2, I love it in the Message translations. Pray diligently. Stay alert with your eyes wide open in gratitude. Stay alert. Pray for us that God, listen to this verse of Scripture. Let's unpack it. That God may open a door for our message so that we may proclaim the mystery of Christ, for which I am in chains. Paul is writing this in prison. Pray that I may proclaim it clearly as I should. Be wise in the way we act toward outsiders. Make the most of every opportunity. I wonder if we do that. Let your conversation always be full of grace, seasoned with salt. I love that phrase, so that you may know how to answer everyone. So imagine with me there is a bank. I like this bank. I would love to be a member of this bank that deposits into your bank account every single day $86,400. You wake up every morning and you check your app and you got another 86 grand in your bank. How many people would love to be a member of that bank? There's a couple of catches to this. You might know where I'm going, right? It carries no balance from day to day. Every evening it deletes any part of the balance you fail to use. So what would you do? I'd be spending 86 grand a day. Who's with me? Some of you are like, I don't know if I could do that. Some of you husbands are like, my wife could do that in like 12 minutes. At TJ Maxx. So you know this, right? I'm just going to say this about time because I really think sometimes we think we're going to live forever or we just waste time. We don't really we don't really give time its due. You know where I'm going, right? There is such a bank. It is called the Bank of Time. Every day we wake up, we have 86,400 seconds. Every night, it writes off whatever time we fail to use as a loss. It carries no balance. It allows no overdrafts. Each day, it opens a new account for you. Each night, it burns the remains of the day. If you fail to use the day's deposits, you lose it. There is no going back. There is no drawing against tomorrow. You have to live on today's deposits. Live in the present. Do you make the most of the day? Benjamin Franklin said, time, man, is huge. Don't squander time. It's the stuff life is made of. Last week, I brought to you once again wisdom to think about. You never know what a day holds. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So the Bible says in Psalm 90, verse 12, what? Teach us to number our days. We want to kind of number our lives in years, but the Bible's going to say days. It's so precious. Time is such a precious commodity. We have to think about it in days that we might gain a heart of wisdom. So I'm going to kind of roll down some personal thoughts here just from my heart. Has anybody ever made this statement but me? I just don't have that much time. Raise your hand. We're so busy doing X and Y that we just don't have the time for Z. Just don't have time. That statement's not really true, right? Let's put it in a real life scenario. You have a mom, she calls. Maybe your mom's alive, your mom and dad are alive. Your mom calls and says, you know what, your dad has just had a tragic accident or has just had a heart attack or something devastating has just happened and he's in the hospital at UT Medical. I just want you to know it. We're rushing that direction. And you on the other end of the phone go, I just don't have time to go. I got to cut the yard. We got friends coming over tomorrow. Giovanna wants me to clean the garage. Is that going to happen? What are you going to do? You're going to make the time. I know this for sure. The older I get, the more what I do for a living, I know this to be true. Whether it's church, whether it's ministry, whether it's hanging with family, whether it's doing the right things in life, people do what they want to do every time. I've had story after story. I can embarrass so many people from the conversations I've had where people are like, well, Brent, I just can't make church. I just don't have time. It's interesting to think about. We always approach the subject of time with scarcity, don't we? We got a lot going on. We don't seem to find the time to do the things that we know we need to do. And I like this truth. I mentioned that last week. That's a really good statement. Truth is like surgery. It first hurts, then it heals. The truth is we can always find the time, especially for stuff that really matters. And if we don't find the time, it's going to produce a consequence that we do not want to deal with. So when you think about time, think time. T-I-M-E. Okay, I'm going to give you the first three. Time, T, treasure. We're going to talk about it. I, invest. M, manage. You get to think about what E stands for, but let's think about time with the word time. Treasure. God says we should treasure our days. We should think about our days. We should number our days. It's a valuable commodity. If you think about the value of time, I'll just give you a few to think about. To realize the value of 1 year, ask a student who failed a grade. Think of how that year is so valuable. To realize the value of a month, you ask a mom who gave birth to a baby prematurely. That 1 month in the mother's womb. I mean, fast forward from a day and a month, even an hour. How about this? The value of 1 minute. Ask the man who had a heart attack in a restaurant and an EMT happened to be sitting next to him eating his meal and performed CPR on him and saved his life. How many stories do we know about that? The value of a second. Ask the person who barely missed a head-on collision with an oncoming car. I think of Shane Wilhoit, who was here Wednesday night in our church, who was driving a car back from North Carolina. He had driven several hundred miles, was close to his house when right down here on Newport Highway from North Carolina to here, he got into a car accident, and really he's hurting, but man, he could have died just like that. The value of a second. I think about the value of a millisecond. You're like, Brent, now we're splitting hairs. A millisecond. I remember vividly watching. For some, I don't remember when it was a couple of years ago. It was something on like NBC Sports. There was nothing on. And so I turned it on, and it was the swim trials to see if swimmers could make the Olympics. And this guy, they had blown up this guy. He was swimming in the next heat, and he had to get through this heat to go to the Olympics. He was getting older. He was up in years. He was like 26. Swim, that's like your Methuselah at that time. You're old. He missed making the Olympics, his last shot. He'd always tried by 0.6 of a second. He had devoted his whole life and missed going to the Olympics by 0.6 of a second. A.W. Tozer, I'm going to put his picture up because I like this guy. I love his reading. He's been an American pastor. He's an author. According to his picture here, you can probably tell that he lived in a different era. He was born in 1897. He actually died in 1963. He's a great author. I love his writings. He's so insightful. For me to think that he's self-educated, that, God used him in such a powerful way and still uses him. I'm using him in a message today in 2019, and he died in 1963. He didn't go to high school, and he didn't graduate college. But yet he was an American pastor for years, and he was an author. And we talked about tombstones last week and what to put on an epitaph. A.W. Tozer's tombstone simply reads, A.W. Tozer, a man of God. That's it. But you want to hear somebody that's just next level awesome, that I wish I could even come close to putting on paper what he could put on paper. Listen to what he said about time. Time is a resource that is non-renewable and non-transferable. You cannot store it, slow it up, hold it up, divide it up, or give it up. You cannot hoard it up or save it for a rainy day. When it's lost, it's unrecoverable. When you kill time, remember that it has no resurrection. I invest. We use a lot of phrases that really aren't possible today. Many of us talk like this. I'm not making fun of anybody because I'm the same way. We can't buy more time. We can't find more time. We can't make more time. That's impossible. Write this down. You cannot save time. You only can invest it. Time is more valuable than money. Money can be saved. Time cannot. If you don't use it, you lose it. 2, where you invest your time reveals what's most important to you. Some of you know this, and I like to think about this. I am a guy that studies time and time management. There's really no such thing as time management. We manage ourselves. We can't manage time. We manage ourselves with the time that we have. That goes over our heads. But you realize we have 168 golden hours a week. Y'all know this, right? That's all we got. All of us are on the same page. We all got 168 hours a week. The average now, average people, some of us are not average, 56 hours of those 168 hours we spend sleeping. It's average. 24 of those hours we eat, and we have personal hygiene. That's average. Some of you are like, my wife spends 29 hours on personal hygiene alone. Anyway, 50 hours we either work or travel to work. That's average. So do you realize, average now, average, we have 5 hours a day of what we would call discretionary time. What we want to do. So here's the deal, ready? What if I follow you around for the next 10 days, those 5 hours of your discretionary time? What am I going to learn about you? I'm going to follow you around. I'm going to be in the back seat of your car. I'm going to be in your house. You're going to open the pantry door. I'm going to be right there. You're going to be like, first off, that's creepy. Second off, what am I going to learn about you? What matters to you, right? I might come back at 10 days and say, you know what, this is what matters to you. You don't even live life. You just look at it on Facebook. You're going to get all mad at me. You're going to go, that's not true. But it is what it is. Do you realize you can do this? Think about your discretionary time. What are you doing with it? Many of us choose to blow it. We literally just scroll Facebook. Go on, most smartphones have the technology to tell you your screen time. Think about it. We're going to start, if you think about how distracted we are, we have to talk about that. So for me and you, it is about the open door, closed door. It is about, you know what, we're not guaranteed what tomorrow holds. We have people around us, we have no idea what's going on in their life. We have no idea if they're going to be here today or be gone tomorrow. And many of us, we have time, we have an open door, we can make a difference. But we sometimes choose not to. More often than not, we choose not to. My mother, who's sitting in this room, and she is the greatest pastor I'll ever know, she made a statement to the staff this week that is so true. Y'all all need to hear this. No stranger today is going to win somebody to Jesus Christ. There is no stranger today that's going to win somebody to Christ. It's going to take somebody to build a relationship with them, to let Jesus Christ show through them, and to say, wait, you know what? There is a light that has penetrated my darkness. I just want you to think about that. Manage. Manage. We invest time. Do we manage our time? I hear this a lot, and I'm going to pick on this. I'm going to stay on this for just a few seconds. I'm just going to tell you a story. I hear this excuse a lot from parents. Maybe you've used this excuse. I might have as well. You know what? I don't spend a lot of time. This is what I hear from parents today. I don't spend a lot of time with my kids, but the time I spend with them is quality time. That's horse manure. That is so dumb. Do you realize the average dad today, that they've actually done studies, the average male dad in America today spends, everybody look, ready, 8 minutes with their child a day. But it's the quality 8 minutes that count. That's so stupid. I'll prove it to you in a simple little illustration. Ready? We're going to have a little fun, interactive moment. Greensboro, South Knoxville, listen in and see if we can do this here at Sevierville. I need somebody with a $100 bill. If you have a $100 bill, I need you to get it out of your wallet. I need you to bring it up to me right now. I need a $100 bill. Wednesday, the guy jumped up quickly. Look, here we go. Right? I love these guys that roll with hundreds, baby. I love it. Thank you so much. You can be seated. I will give you $10 to the church, but thank you for that. I appreciate that. Okay, I need somebody with a $5 bill. $5. You got $5. You got a fiver on you. I need it up here real quick. Let's go. We have limited time. All right. So who's got $5? We got guys here that roll with hundreds, and we don't have fives. All right, I got that. All right. Let's prove it. Let's have an experiment. Ready? All right. So let me crumble this up. This $100 bill. Okay, this 5 is pretty crisp. Okay, I mean, we'll call, this is not real crib. We need a crisp 5. But anyway, this will work. This is a magic trick. The 100 will disappear and the 5 will automatically stay. Here we go. This is how dumb that statement is. Quality time versus quantity time. So I just wrinkled up this $100 bill. So this would be somebody going, hey, I'm going to give you a choice. Which one do you want? Somebody going, well, I don't want the 100 because it's kind of, you just crumbled that up and it's not very quality. It's not very mint condition. I mean, that $5 bill looks a lot more crisp. I think I'll take that. It seems more quality. Is that the dumbest thing you've ever heard? You're like, I'll take you can spit on the 100. I'm taking it. You can rip it in 2. I have Scotch tape. Walmart will still take the 100. We think that about when we deal with our world of influence. We deal with that when it comes to prayer in our own lives, our relationship with God, our families. All the while we scroll Facebook. And yet we spend quality time, and we've been bought this, well, I spend a few minutes, that's quality time. There's no such thing as quantity time as well. Is everybody with me? Okay, you can get your 100 back. Here you go, buddy. He's like, look how quick he got up. You're like, 5 is okay.
It don't come easy.
It don't come easy. That's true.
I thought we were gonna switch.
Yeah, we're going to switch. I know. That would be great. That would be great. Magic trick. That is not a real 100, by the way. No, anyway. So Friday, 2 days ago, my wife and I decided to celebrate our anniversary. You're like, well, your anniversary was in July. On July the 14th, actually, we celebrated 29 years of marriage. We were with her family. I can't go to my wife, who's spending golden time with her family. Honey, can you abandon your family today? I know we're down here for limited time, but it's my day, and we're going to go spend some time together. So we didn't really celebrate our anniversary. It was a Sunday morning, July 14th. I got up. I went to church because I'm a Christian. My wife, who was at the beach, she slept in. I got back from church, and I said, honey, I was just probing because now it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. I didn't really just want to say happy anniversary. I was hoping she would like just, jump out. Hello, you're back. It's our anniversary. She didn't say any of that. She said, I'm making pancakes for my dad. Would you like some? I'm like, yeah, I would. I go upstairs after a while, and finally in front of her family, I grabbed her and said, happy anniversary. She's like, oh, yeah, the happy anniversary. And I know her. She's like, we'll celebrate when we get home. So we decided to celebrate Friday. I did whatever she wanted to do. We did the tourist thing. So Greensboro, listen in, but you've been over here as well. I borrowed my son-in-law's Jeep. He has a ragtop stick shift Jeep. I love it. We got in there. We drove to Gatlinburg. We shopped. We cruised the burg for just a little while. And we decided to spend all day together, whatever she wanted to do. We went through Gatlinburg. We went into the mountains. We stopped at that last little store. I forgot what it's called. You like that store, Giovanna? We bought a little styrofoam cooler. We were the tourists. We got a few sandwiches. We drove to Chimney Top's picnic area. We got our little cooler out and our little sandwich, and we ate. Gatlinburg was packed. No one's in the mountains. People were like, that's just too much work. And we enjoyed it. We skipped along the rocks together, and it was beautiful. It was awesome. We drove all the way up to Clingman's Dome, North Carolina, right there. Clingman's Dome, that high point. You've got the little tower, and we parked, and we walked up Clingman's Dome. It's not really far. It's kind of probably the most whoosh trail we got in the mountains besides Laurel Falls, right? I mean, it's paved. It's a quarter of a mile. We walk up there. I'm checking my heart rate. I'm like, wow, this is good to see, beautiful. We looked, we held hands, we took selfies. We had a great time together. We got back to the car, and Tourons, that's the best word for tour, not tourists, Tourons, right? I mean, we had a lady get out of the car. It's amazing how many out-of-shape people are trying to walk up Clingman's Dome Trail. And you get out, and it's a little bit elevated, and a lady, check this out, an older man drug his wife out of the car. She is rolling her oxygen bottle. And he's like, oh, it's paved. It'll be nothing. And I stopped and I said, ma'am, you don't want to do that. You're going to die. And people are probably not going to care. They're just going to step over you and keep on going up to Clingman's Dome. It's vacation. And she's like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then I created a domestic. They're arguing as we got in the Jeep and rolled on down the road. I created a little mixtape, little mix CD. We listened to our favorite music. We're driving over the mountains. We went to the North Carolina side of the Great Smoky Mountains entrance, Okana Lufte or whatever. I'm the Tennessee boy. I like the Sugarland Visitor Center. I can pronounce that one. Is it Okana Lefty. Okana Lefty. It's a really cool thing. How many people have been there? And you've got the little visitor center, and then you've got the little village that they've recreated. And we were walking down by the river holding hands. Here come these elk. We saw 6 elk jump in the river and head toward it. It was awesome. We're taking photos. And here, of course, it had to be a family from Florida. It's always got to be a family from Florida. Mom and Dad are holding hands, and the little 6-year-old walks right to the riverbank, like 3 feet from this elk that's looking up like, you take one more step. I'm getting nervous. You know what Giovanna says? She's back there. Giovanna goes, get your phone. She said it. Y'all saw about the bison that threw the kid up at Yellowstone, right? I'm going to be the guy that's on the Today Show with the little boy that the elk threw up in the river. And Mom and Dad are like, look, that's a beautiful little huge elk. Cue the deer. We're at Disney World. That elk's like, one more step, boy, and you're done. I'm the one, as the Christian, that said, son, you need to get away from that elk before he kills you. We walked around the village. This is how much I love my wife. We walked around the village. We went into the barn. Who's been to the little barn there? My wife's so awesome. She saw all the hay up in the barn. You know what she said? She goes, hey, let's go for a roll in the hay. You were awesome. And I'm thinking, you're not getting up there with clothes on, much less off. I mean, that's not going to happen. There's spiders and all kinds of stuff in there. And then I said, you know what's going to happen? Pastor and his wife arrested in the national park I'm not going to do that. We drove to Cherokee. We went all the way to Cherokee. We went to the Wigwam store. You think Pigeon Forge is bad? Come on, I mean, Cherokee is, woo! Everything's closed. Why? There's a black hole there. It's called the casino. So we walked in the casino. We walked around for a while, watched all these people having massive, their smiles were on their face. No one has a smile on their face at the casino. They're all like. I watched a lady lose a lot of money. I love doing that. Just looking at her, shaking my head like, you're stupid. But anyway, we drove home over the mountain. It was sunset. It was beautiful. And you're like, Brent, what are you doing? We could have spent like 10 minutes together. We could have had a little quality time, I guess. We could have just, hey, you know what, let's do. But we decided to spend the entire day. Why? Because I love her. And I believe she loves me. After all these years, even though we're getting old. Even though I pick on her and she picks on me, what's wrong with you now? And it really, you know what? It changed us. It was a great day. We needed that day. How many of us need to spend some quality and quantity time with our families, most importantly with God? The Bible says this, we'll close with this, Ephesians chapter 5. Be very careful. I want you to think about this verse of Scripture this week. I don't care how young you are, how old you are. If you're a student getting ready to go back to school on Wednesday, great verse of Scripture to dwell on before you walk back in the doors of your school. Whether we're 88 years old, it doesn't matter, everybody in between. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days that we live in are evil. The Bible actually brings up that word, if you really lock in on the original translation, it talks about redeeming time. Be very careful how we live, not as unwise but wise, making the most of every opportunity. Back to Colossians. Devote yourselves to prayer. Can I ask you if we do that? How many of us have prayed for our children, our families, our world of influence this week? We get so busy, don't we, doing so many things, we forget If I walked around and I looked at your 5 hours of discretionary time, how much of that time is devoted to your relationship with God and your family? You're like, Brent, I've heard this before. Where you're going to hear it again because all of us need it. Be watchful and thankful. Stay alert. That God may open a door for our message so that we may proclaim the mystery of Christ. Pray that we proclaim it clearly. We've got to be wise in the way we act toward outsiders. Make the most, again, of every opportunity. Let your conversation be full of grace, seasoned with salt. I love that phrase because salt, it's got to have just the right amount. My wife is an amazing cook. She knows how to bring it to life. She'll take like her spaghetti sauce and she'll be like, oh, it needs more salt. And I'm thinking it tastes great. And then she puts more salt and I'm like, wow, that is amazing. But if she dumped the whole thing in there, well, how many Christians that we know are so over the top? You're this and you're that and you're this and you're that. Hey, is our conversation full of grace and are we seasoned in such a way that we are tasty to other people? For us as a church, I'm just praying this, and this is the only church I want to be a part of. I want to be a part of an open door church. That we have enough boldness. We have enough faith. We understand our relationship with Christ. We understand that E, write it down, T-I-M-E. We understand eternity is a long time. Eternity is such a long time. That what if we are we prepared to invest our time in our world of influence? Hey, at least invite them to church. At least present our lives in such a way that people can see Jesus in us. They're intrigued by our faith. They are so in want of our security and our purpose and our confidence, our just all the things that we have in life. The song that we sang, Jesus, who walks through the fire with me, to know we have a relationship with Jesus Christ, the Son of God, who will walk through the darkest of days with us. How many people are walking through life and don't have any of that? And all we have to do is bring the time that we have to open the door. I'm just going to ask you to think about this to close. If you're a follower of Jesus Christ, and most of us are in this room, if you're a follower of Christ and you're like, I'm so thankful for that gift of salvation in my life, do you really want to be a person that just closes the door on the people around you? And you're like, no, I don't. But with the time that you use and you have, you're showing me and you're showing yourself yes or no to that. It's not, hey, I want to be that person. The time that we have, are we making a difference or not? God, I come before you. I thank you for this opportunity to speak from my heart. I know plans maybe changed a little bit, exactly the direction that I wanted to go, and maybe a series that I wanted to start, but I'm just so thankful for last week and this week and next week. Just to speak from my heart. All of us understand this. We're keenly aware that we don't know what tomorrow holds. We don't know what today holds. With the limited time that we have, if we knew we had that limited time, what would we do different? Many of us would do so many things different. Well, you know what? We have limited time. Time is passing us by. And I don't want to be a person that's just pushing out till tomorrow. I'm so thankful. Hey, I'm grateful for what's going to happen tomorrow. I want to just focus on today. In this season in the life of our church. In this season in our homes and our families' lives. Let's not wish away our days, but spend our time, the quality and the quantity of it, just number one, in your presence, seeking you, locking in on you.